Chag Sameach. As many of you know, I had a dear friend who passed a few weeks ago, and I went to visit him in France 10 days before he passed away and spent some time with him. What I've been feeling is what all people feel. We all feel when we go through loss. There's a hole, and the person who we were close to is no longer accessible, conversation cut short, and the presence that can no longer be connected to by going to visit them. As I've been going through my life since then, there are moments where I suddenly think, oh wow, he's dead, how strange. You suddenly have a person disappear from one's life. And yet they don't disappear, right? This is what we do with Yizkor a few times a year. We bring up our loved ones who are no longer with us, and we recite their names. We try to imagine their faces and think about their presences and ensure they don't fade away with time. And with my friend, as with many, what has been the most on my mind is what I learned from him. And I went to see him to help him, but he helped me just as much. And I think he taught everyone around him, especially in the years dealing with illness, about courage, about cherishing and being present for one's loved ones and family, continuing through life despite all the challenges, uplifting others. This is what we do. We learn from the people whom we love. So the Pirkei Avot, Ethics of the Father, says, who is wise? Ezu Chacham, the one who learns from all human beings. And every human being, every Adam, has what to teach us by the way they walk through life, the way they have strength to meet the challenges in their life, the areas where they have an ability to do something that we do not, and how they find joy in ways that we don't find joy. In the end, it's not books to make us wise, it's people who make us wise. And often we don't really realize the lessons they teach us until they're gone. And it's not the skills they have or the talents, but it's the character that they develop throughout their days. And then as the days go by, we try and hold on to that sense of presence. And then we realize that the lesson isn't something that person did, but it's the person themselves. It's their spirit, and a part of them that is this word Adam, that is a human being, that is in the image of God, part of that first human being, so to speak, banished from the garden, and meaning that all of us are fellow walkers, and that part of those other loved ones who are also fellow walkers as human beings in this journey of life. And we realize that in our own ways we can still contact them, and they can enrich our lives perhaps even more deeply than when they were with us. And it's not just really only every Adam. And in Eastern thought, there's this beautiful teaching where they say that the model of the very first teacher obviously had no teacher because it was the first teacher, but he himself had 24 teachers: the earth, the air, the sky, the water, fire, the sun, the moon, a pigeon, the ocean, a bee, an ant, a fish, a spider, a caterpillar. And if we look more profoundly, then we see how many lessons there are all around us that are coming our way. Maybe it's only when we think about loss that suddenly we truly become open to understand and learn and start a new project within ourselves to change one of those rhythms that keeps on going and shift it a little bit, create a new rhythm amidst it all. And realizing that it is possible to grow in our minds and our hearts and observe the lessons that come to us, permitting us to find a new place of interconnection within. As Pirkei Avot also says, there's no thing that does not have its place and no man that does not have its hour. We can learn from everything because everything has a place within the whole and teaches something to the whole. We're often too stuck in our own lives, our own worries, our own minds to realize the vastness beyond us and how everything has its place and it's part of the great patterns that manifest around us. And if we just are able to reach out in that way, then we see and find a way out of our own lack of beauty and our own lack of harmony back to that place of connection. And the liturgy wants us to see in so many of our prayers how everything is interconnected in the world around us, all of nature, all of life, all bound together. And it beckons us to live from that place of intention and of being awake to what it means to truly be alive. Another dear friend passed a few years ago. Remarkable, I found, she said at the end of her life, she said, my whole life I've been waiting for people to love me the way I wanted them to love me. But I realized in these last few weeks, that actually love is coming my way from so many places if I just am willing to accept it as it's coming. From the people, from the grass, from the sun. What else are we doing here? And not all of our friends and dear departed ones leave us with wisdom in that so many words. But it's in other ways they teach us about who we are and how we ourselves would like to be. I remember a few years ago, a member came to me, a member of the synagogue, just after suffering a loss, came to my door. And somehow I could just tell it was a different person than I usually saw, that they were full of life as well as full of that sadness. And so it was, we chatted and we connected and doors were open that usually are closed. And what else are we doing here but to understand and live our lives from that place, from that understanding? So 4 times a year at Yizkor, we bring their memory up and we try and listen. We try and listen to who they were, how they had their part and their place, and what it means for our part and our place. We open our hearts to really hear and find our own places in the great web, the purpose of all of it. And we try to remember the old lessons that were always there, but we couldn't see when they were still with us, but they continue to work wonders in our hearts. Maybe the words that we once dismissed and are now treasures for us in our soul of souls, making us realize that perhaps the greatest teacher of all is that time is not stagnant, but is moving forward, as we are too, we ourselves but temporary creatures. But what links us all together is love, and that we're always linked by wherever we are, here in this world, by our ability to remember and to transcend and to learn new things in the great adventures we all go through. And even as we miss those who walked with us in this very earth with us, we also remember through our prayers, even as they brought meaning to our days, we also know they're not separate, but they are still one with all of us. Chag Sameach.